Welcome back to another episode of What It's Really Like to Be an Entrepreneur. I'm Vincent Lanci, speaker and author of the book Left for Dead, A Story of Redemption. Want to know what it's really like to be an entrepreneur? Well, you came to the right place. Whether you're already an entrepreneur, are looking to start your journey tomorrow, or just someone who needs a little extra motivation to get through the day, this is the perfect podcast for you. This is the place where you will learn exactly what it's like in the world of entrepreneurship and hear authentic stories of entrepreneurs grinding on each episode. My goal for this podcast is to help you realize that giving up is never an option. If you missed the last episode, be sure to download it after you tune in today. Before I introduce my guest, I'll share another entrepreneurial story to inspire you all. And for today's episode, I will introduce the incredibly popular entrepreneur, Elon Musk. Elon Musk is a South African-born American entrepreneur and businessman. Of course, the list of companies he has founded are second to none. Around the time of his parents' divorce, when he was about 10 years old, Elon developed an interest in computers. He soon taught himself how to program, and when he was 12 years old, he sold his first software, which was a game called Blaster. Fast forward, he founded X.com in 1999, which of course later became PayPal, SpaceX in 2002, and Tesla Motors in 2003. By his late 20s, he had already become a multi-millionaire when he sold his startup company, Zip2, to a division of Compaq Computers. Elon also made headlines in 2012 when SpaceX launched a rocket that would send the first commercial vehicle to the International Space Station. He then purchased Solar City in 2016, cementing his standing as a leader of industry by taking on an advisory role in the early days of President Trump's administration. Neil, what'd you like best about this story?
Hello, mate. Oh, God, there's so much, isn't there, with Elon Musk? You could kind of talk for hours on it. I think from my side, one is the variety. You know, this guy is not happy with doing one thing, you know, going after that one dream. He has multiple dreams and he goes after them. And I think also the one thing that always stands out from that kind of brief snippet and Elon Musk in general is he's a rule breaker. You know, he's a pioneer. He doesn't give two hoots what someone else thinks. He doesn't care who went before him. He's about breaking that kind of status quo. And that accounts for his professional life as well as his personal life. Just look at how he named his baby. You know, everyone else goes that traditional route of using names that have gone there before. You know, how on earth you're ever meant to pronounce his young child, I don't know. But again, that's Elon Musk in a nutshell, isn't it? It's like, I don't care, I'm going to do it my way and I'm going to see it through. And it's obviously paid great success to him and his businesses, and it suited him very, very well.
Yeah, I mean, might be a tough question, but which entrepreneurial endeavor that he's been on are you most interested in?
God, like I think I've
gotta be tough, man. Yeah.
Yeah, I think from my side, I really got to know about Elon Musk when Tesla came around, and the thing that really kind of opened my eyes to who he was, I believe what they were doing around Tesla is they made all of their plans, all of their designs kind of open source. And I was like, who is this guy? You know, everyone else keeps everything as close guarded secrets. And then you got this guy that's coming along and he's saying, do you know what? Here are our plans. Here are our ideas. Go see what you can do with them because that's going to create a better world. And that was really interesting. So I think for me, it really stemmed from those days at Tesla. And obviously, the more that you follow him through, it just goes to the blind, to the ridiculous. So each journey seems to get bigger and bigger and bigger. But for me, that was, and I hope he kind of sticks to that ethos of that I'm going to give it away. And I think he said that didn't he say that about his fortune recently as well? He said, I'm going to give all my fortune away. I want no possessions. I want nothing.
He's a very big philanthropist. It's very impressive with all of that.
So I think for me, Tesla's still that favorite for me. It's kind of what it was grounded. And
to be honest, man, I don't know if I'm going to be in line in the beginning to go to space when all that's going on. That just seems like
I've got no chance. You're not getting him on me on one of those.
I mean, I'll see the videos. I'm sure it's great, but I don't know if it's something I'm willing to risk.
No, no. But it's great seeing you need these pioneers.
You do.
You
He's
know, and I
definitely a
think,
pioneer.
yeah, and I think you've got a few of them, haven't you? These kind of unicorn entrepreneurs that many people strive to be, but there's a wiring there. There's something that's just different, that's born into them, that just really kind of give them that drive to move forward. I'm never going to be in that position. You know, I know that. I know where to set my goal.
It's a different world, man.
It is, and they say, you know, reach for the stars and you'll hit the moon. I'll be quite lucky getting up out of the atmosphere, you know. And I think it's you know, you can definitely follow these people and you can put them on pedestals, but they're a breed of their own. They're crazy.
That voice you all just heard, that's the sound of today's guest. Today's guest is coming live from the United Kingdom. He is similar to me in that he has a passion for a commitment to networking. So no surprise here, we became connected through a referral of an earlier guest. He is an open-minded, ever-learning entrepreneur with a passion for all things service, experimental, and innovative. He is a believer in the positive path space can provide you and that every experience is meaningful, even those that are negative. He is committed to empowering corkscrew thinking and an encouragement to become pioneers and adventurers in our own life stories. Just because it's always been done that way doesn't mean it has to be. He also runs co-work spaces in Exeter, United Kingdom, but that's not all. This career entrepreneur has been involved in many endeavors, and his wisdom and advice will pay a major dividend to you. Allow me to please introduce Neil Finnie. Neil, thanks for coming on the show, man.
Thank you, Vincent. Thanks for having me. And that lovely introduction. I have to kind of use that in other bios. People are always asking me to put a bio together. I don't know what to write. So
yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah,
I magnify that from you, take that from you, and use it for my future benefit.
Absolutely. Would you mind please introducing yourself to our listeners a little more and preview your story without giving just too much away of that entrepreneurial journey?
Yeah, okay, so my name's Neil Finnie. I'm based in the UK, but I've been lucky enough to kind of work around the world. I guess in terms of my entrepreneurial status, I best describe it as an opportunist entrepreneur. From a young age, growing up in Essex, which is kind of the east side of London, just outside of London, you know, you're brought up wheeling and dealing and ducking and diving and looking for opportunities. You know, so from a young age, I was always looking for, you know, how to make that next buck, you know, hanging out with my mates and thinking, you know, how can we make a quick steal here? So, you know, I was always brought up around that kind of hustle environment. But my journey's been really diverse, from construction through to, as you said, co-work spaces, education, tourism, hospitality. But it's always been through kind of serendipity kind of moments that have sprung themselves on me. And I'm a big believer in that. And I think also, although I consider myself probably now an entrepreneur, I've never ever counted out the idea of going to work with someone else at another business if that kind of, I guess, hit my passions and my desires, and it was the right fit for me. But I've been running and launching businesses since I was 18. My dad was an entrepreneur, so I guess I was in the right environment. And touch wood, I've been super lucky in the fact that, you know, I'm definitely not an Elon Musk kind of range, but you know, it's been an enjoyable kind of 30 years of working. Well, not quite 30 years. I'm not that old. But it's been diverse, a real variety there.
I'm looking forward to hearing all about it and getting into the details to inspire the next generation of business owners. But Neil, it is time for the big five. What I do each episode is my guest and I will go over these 5 questions to help you, the listeners, learn what it's really like to be an entrepreneur. You ready to go?
Let's go.
Great. So you may have touched on it very briefly here, which is perfect. When did you realize that you either weren't happy with what you were doing or you just needed some kind of change to truly start this entrepreneurial journey? Please share your story.
Yeah, I've been thinking about this, and I don't think I've ever really been unhappy. You know, again, I'm super blessed. You know, my friends, my wife, my family, I think they say I'm definitely that kind of glass half full kind of guy, real positivity there. So I've never been unhappy with whatever I've done, even if I've been working for someone else in my career. So I think it's been very easy for me in terms of this entrepreneurial journey. So as I said, my dad had his own business in shipping. So I was always kind of around having your own business, and he always made it look very easy. As I said, being based in Essex, we were always kind of wheeling and dealing, looking at kind of self-made money. And I was also, I wasn't saying I wasn't academic, but I didn't necessarily have a passion for academia. So after failing my kind of high school exams twice, I figured it was time to kind of check out of that kind of traditional model of learning and start working. And my first kind of job was underpinning, pouring concrete. And that was where I got my first taste of being my own boss. Because at 18, when you're pouring concrete, the money seems great, but when you've got rent to pay and, you know, girls to date and fun to have, it becomes really difficult to lead the lifestyle that you want. And I was introduced to the fact that if I went self-employed, I could earn more money. And that was brilliant for me. I was like, happy days, you know, I'll go self-employed. And that's kind of my first small inroad into being my own boss. You know, right at 18, I had someone running my books and my accounting. It felt really grown up. It also felt really easy.
Yeah.
And this is before the beginning of the internet. You know, we were just about using floppy disks by then, or CD drives. And it seemed fairly simple. I didn't know all the fuss was about kind of being a self-employed individual. But then I left construction, went to the French Alps and lived in the French Alps for about 5 years on and off between there and New Zealand, and got involved with a startup, which was a backpackers in the French Alps. It was when kind of low-cost airlines began in Europe, you know, the EasyJets of the world. And the ski holiday industry changed in Europe, went from like week holidays to 2-3 day breaks. And it was my girlfriend at the time and we sat with these backpackers, and it was great. But again, very opportunist in the fact that here's an opportunity. We knew someone with a chalet, it was empty. We created this business and got to know more about, you know, how to market, how to run hospitality, you know, all the ins and outs there. You know, having a partner that you eventually decide that, you know, is not a long-term future there. There was also problems with the chalet. I got out there, moved to Latin America, and then got involved with community development programs and set up, you know, this small initiative with some of the orphanages in Guatemala in bringing backpacks. So again, very opportunistic in how I got into this kind of social entrepreneurship vibe. And then went to Japan for a few years and got involved in some small kind of language schools there. So it's always been kind of wherever I've been, whatever I've seen, it's been very reactive. I don't think I ever sat down and thought, I want a business, I'm going to go and launch it. It's like, wow, we could create a business around this and just do it, just kind of dive in. But again, I think at the time, you know, most of the business that I was involved with in my 20s, there was no commitment. You know, I didn't have a mortgage, I didn't have kids. It was very easy. Mm-hmm. And because I don't think I'd gone the university route, I didn't spend a lot of money or a lot of time in having to major on one particular focus. Yeah. So flipping between lots of different things and just making money and just creating new things was exciting and it was interesting. And then as I said, from my side, it's never been about owning my own business. It's about living the life I want. So I came back to the UK about 12 years ago and met Richard Walton, who you had on one of your last shows. And Rich and I, initially, I don't think he liked me very much. I think he thought I was a bit of an upstart. But his company I loved, you know, Global Vision International was a volunteer company. And I said, hey, I'll volunteer my time with you. I'm back in the UK. I'm looking at getting into social responsibility. I had a few ideas of a few businesses I wanted to launch, but didn't know the industry. Eventually got on really well with Rich, loved what the company kind of stood for, loved the company culture, and stayed there for like 3-4 years. And Rich and I eventually launched another business, Corkscrew, off the back of that. But again, you know, for me, it wasn't about being an entrepreneur. It's about doing things I love with people I love. And that's something that underpins everything that they do. And then let's say Corkscrew grew, which is one of the businesses I have now. The co-work spaces, they came about because of an opportunity at Corkscrew where we needed a place to run programs from. I didn't want to run it in a training center. So I decided I would take on a bit more commercial space than I needed. And at that time, Exeter didn't have any co-work spaces, but I knew the value of them. So I was like, damn, you know, I've got some space. I'll start trying to run a co-work space. And then that kind of got success and that got popular and it built a community and then became its own standalone business. But again, it was never my idea to launch a co-work space. It was just, well, this is building. Let's maximize this. Let's grow it. But there's probably, I don't know, maybe 400 people that now use, or actually 400 not at the moment in coronavirus.
Yeah.
We're lucky to get 4 in there at the moment. But, you know, the community's building all the time, and you know, super great to be part of that. So I think, you know, as I say, my journey is just opportunities, and who knows what I'll be doing next year. And this might lead to some of my problems and my failings.
Hey, I think that's all really inspiring, because it just goes to show you, if you just open your eyes, see what's around you, maybe you can make something happen. But I can relate to you just finding something you're passionate about. It's what I eventually ended up doing full time, devoting myself to this business. And I haven't looked back. Now that you've been on this entrepreneurial path for a great number of years, I'm excited for your answer here. What are 1 or 2 of the most difficult parts of being an entrepreneur?
I think from my side, personally, I think one of the things I struggle the most with is getting past that creation stage. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs fall into this as well. I think, you know, we find it very easy to launch things, and once they're launched and they're going, and there's kind of some sort of kind of traction there, it's like, right, what next? What can I jump into next? And I have this real issue of flitting between things, you know, and sometimes I need to sit down and I need to focus, and I need to kind of take something onto that next step, that next level. You know, my wife is repeatedly used as a sounding board. You know, last couple of months ago, I got out of the shower and was like, I want to start a soap business. You know, I love soap. I've always kind of loved the idea of the physical products of soap rather than the shower gels. And she's like, whoa, we've got the co-work space, we've got experiential, we've got Corkscrew. You don't need anything else. I was like, no, but I like it. I like the creation. And I think sometimes I have to calm myself down. I'm too excitable, and actually think, no, we need to focus on this business. We need to kind of give it time to succeed, to grow, and to go to that next level. So I need to calm down a little bit. I'm like a puppy sometimes. At 44, I'm terrible when it comes to getting excited about things. Well, new shiny things I love.
It's good to keep interest in it. But give us one more here, Neil. What's another difficult part for you in your entrepreneurial path?
Another difficult thing for me is, I guess it's ensuring that other people have a voice within the company. And it's not that I find it difficult, because I want to bring other people into the business. You know, we have people that work for us, and we want to make sure that their thoughts are taken on board as well. I think sometimes as a founder, as an entrepreneur, you can sometimes believe your path is the only right path. And I'm getting better at it with age. The fact that I don't have to control every element. I can sit back and I can bring other people in, and I can say, okay, so your idea, let's follow that through. Let's have faith in that idea. I might not agree with it at the beginning, but it's about giving people time to show their ideas and actually take them through those kind of next steps to see if they work. And that takes time for me. I still find myself now, even say with the experiences where we've handed over the reins to, you know, other team members, I can still find myself, I think, imposing a little too much, wanting too much of that control. Whereas it's about really stepping back and saying, hey, no, you know, give ownership to someone else and let them take that responsibility. I'm getting better at it, though.
I think those are 2 great lessons, where you have to accept that you can't be great at everything. It's okay to have help. And it's also, another thing is, just because you see something one way or you like one thing doesn't mean somebody else will. So you always want to give those new perspectives, and that just comes with learning and growing in the industries. But what would you say one of your greatest failures or lessons learned is, Neil? And what did it teach you? Why is it still stuck with you all the way up until today?
The fuck-up nights. They're called fuck-up nights.
All right, let's talk about it.
And basically, it's a bit of a movement where it's trying to encourage entrepreneurs and founders and people in business in general, really, to stand up and talk about all their fuck-ups. And it's really to make people aware that there's lots of failures in business. People fail all the time. And I think I found it really hard when I was asked to come up with like a big failure. Everyone else had these massive failures with businesses kind of collapsing left, right, and center. But it was really tough for me, because I make mistakes so often in business. There's not like one big thing that I would say. I think if I learn anything over the journey, and sometimes I think my failing is I don't value my time enough.
Right.
I think I give up my time too easy. And I don't necessarily think that's a failure, but it's a mistake I make a lot, where I will have people, especially with the co-work space, want to speak to me about their business ideas or use me as a sounding board. Also through Corkscrew, a lot of people come up with business ideas, and I'm always more than willing to give my time. But I think what happens there is it probably eats too much into my family time. It eats up too much into my own business time. So I think sometimes it's about me being a little bit more selfish in terms of saying no to things. And I think that for me is something I've learned a lot over the way. It's a bit of a failing that I maybe give too much. And that might come out of insecurities or wanting to try and help people and please people and not really receive anything in return for that. But I don't have massive failings. Of course, businesses haven't worked and they've gone wrong. But at the end of the day, they're just mistakes that I've made along the way and I've learned from. But I think my biggest learning is about valuing your time.
Okay.
Yes, I think it's about really understanding your time and how valuable it is and making sure you put a monetary value on that as well. Of course, you're going to give some away for free, but don't give it all away.
Absolutely. Well, I love how you put that. Time management is so important, but also how you're spending your time. Everybody has to grow and the learning never stops, especially as an entrepreneur. If you could sit down, Neil, and learn from any entrepreneur, dead or alive, who are we picking?
Oh, yeah, I love this one. Because this here, it kind of satisfies a personal desire to meet someone as well as I'm being an entrepreneur. It's Prince.
Let's talk about it.
That's the entrepreneur I want to meet. If you look at Prince as an entrepreneur, he's phenomenal. Take away the music aspect. He was a visionary. He was rebellious. He was innovative. A lot of people don't know this. He changed the business model of music. He was one of the first artists to ever sell their music online through a streaming platform. You've got Beyonce, Radiohead, Pearl Jam, all doing this in a similar vein now. Prince was the first, so he saw the business model behind it. Also, you look at the branding around Prince and Paisley Park and, the symbols, everything was so well crafted. And he also understood the emotional connection that's important to individuals and to your customers. And he viewed them as customers as well as fans, but he knew how to really bring them in and give them value. And then on top of that, he also understood the power of social platforms. Even before we had social media, he was creating a social group that would want to it was all word of mouth to get into Paisley Park, into watch his kind of live home performances, and you had to know someone else. So he built this really strong tribe around it. So one of the first to really understand that. And then the charity work he did was phenomenal. So I love business entrepreneurs that have a heart. That's something that I believe in, that, you got to value more than just your profits. And then something that I is relevant now, the equality that he brought to everything he did was phenomenal. Black, white, male, female, he didn't care. If you were good enough, even if you were better than him, he would put the spotlight on you.
Absolutely.
So I think we can learn a lot about him. And also, I grew up on his music. Did
you ever see him live?
Oh, mate, it's awesome. Sorry, what was that?
Did you see him live?
Yeah, multiple times.
Yeah.
I never got a backstage invite, though. So
well, let me ask you another question then, Neil. If you had to pick a place for this meeting to go down, where would it be?
In my co-work space, because then everyone's going to, it's going to put me on the map. I'm never going to say anything again. Like a true businessman, like a true entrepreneur. Come to the generator, buy your tickets, and then I can sit back and relax.
Well, I know, like you said, we're in a difficult time here, coronavirus, but let's look into the future here. You have a lot going on. You've been involved with a lot in the past. So I want to pick your brain, see maybe there's something new as well. Where do you see yourself in all of your entrepreneurial endeavors in the future? We're going to do 1 year and 5. 1 year from today, what are we seeing from Neil?
Okay, so I think in the co-work space, I think we're going to have a bigger community. I think where we live, there's a lot of people coming down to the Southwest for that work-life balance. I think because of remote working, people are going to look at joining more communities, more co-work communities. So I think we're going to be super busy there. I'm also really excited about, the launch of Experiential, because unfortunately, a lot of people are going to be losing their jobs. There's going to be mass unemployment, but people now can use this as a catalyst to look for new opportunities and really understand what they want to do in their career life. And that's experiential, So I think we're going to see more and more people, and we want to empower more and more people to make the right decisions in their career moves. So, I want to make sure that we're giving people those opportunities. And then also I think in a year's time, we're really going to have a handle on Corkscrew Thinking and using that as a vehicle to inspire other people to look at how they can make changes in their life through a different thought process. I hope from a personal point of view, we've got more flexibility in the companies, because that's very important for me and the team. So we've got more flexibility to be able to move around what we do. But I think I'm really lucky in terms of the opportunities that the current climate's going to bring to the business.
Yeah.
I think whilst they're obviously seeing issues at the moment, I think long-term 12 months, we're going to be busy, because I think people are looking for communities. I think people are looking for change. And
Absolutely.
I think people are looking for other people to be able to support them to do that.
Well, I think I admire the work ethic and the drive, but I also admire how it has the philanthropic ties, like we've been speaking about throughout the episode. But let's look 5 years. Let's look 5 years deeper. What are we seeing?
Okay, so we're seeing, hopefully, my business partner at the Generator business today. Hopefully, I'm not too involved there anymore. I think 10 years of being involved in growing that community, it can be a real commitment. And not that I don't want to be a part of that, but I probably don't want to be as big a part of that. So 5 years, definitely. The kids are going to be older. We're launching a podcast with Corkscrew Thinking, which will get you on, Vincent. Hopefully in 5 years' time, we've got a lot more recognition in what Corkscrew Thinking is, and people can really implement it into their lives. So we've got those million subscribers to Corkscrew Thinking, and then experientials that we're working with, some of the top universities, some of the top colleges in their career centres, in also helping them help their students and I guess career changers navigate, their career exploration. So I think I don't see new businesses on the horizon for me in 5 years. I think, the three I have at the moment are the ones that I want to now scale, because I'm super passionate. These are my ikigai.
I could hear it. Yeah.
These are my ikigai. This is my reason for being. So I think hopefully I can get involved with a few others that I'm just passionate about and give some time to, but not the driving force behind them. I've got three, the magic number, and that's more than enough for me.
Well, you know what, Neil, I do love the drive. Like I said, you're very inspiring. You're giving a lot of lessons throughout each question. So thank you so much for coming on the show. I know our listeners are going to see all the value in your episode today. I love how you emphasized enjoying life throughout the show. I thought that was very, very important. And you also spoke about how you just see opportunities and you acted on them. You weren't scared to do it. Granted, some are bigger than others, but your workspace vision, I think, is truly admirable because of the value they provide to all the people that work inside them. But it is time for the last word here. And I do this on my other podcast series, A Mental Health Break with Vincent A. Lanci, as well, because I want the listeners to really get to know my guests. Is there something that you would like to share that we did not get to touch on yet today?
I think the last word, if we're going to have one word, magpie. That is the word I'm going to lead with. And I mentioned it right at the beginning. Magpies are those black and white birds, and what they do is they find the shiny, silvery things that they like, and they take them. And it's one thing that we always encourage people to think about, because we're overstimulated in this world now with our media coming from every angle, from our TVs, our radios, our computer screens, that people fail to spot the things that they find interesting and shiny. Right. And I think, if you're going to be an entrepreneur and if you're going to learn, you have to look at those shiny things and you have to be able to take them, but you actually also have to think about how you're going to use them. How are you going to implement them into your business? How are you going to learn from them? How are you going to utilize them? But for me, again, not only looking to connect to open those doors, but magpieing has been the way that I've always worked in launching businesses. It's looking at those shiny things, taking them, adding my own secret sauce.
Love it. That's the way you got to do it. But Neil, would you mind please sharing your professional social media, your website, ways for our listeners to follow your endeavors, reach out to you, talk, all of that?
Yeah, I think the best platform would be LinkedIn. That's where I'm most active. All the connections to the different businesses are there. So it's just Neil Finnie with an IE on LinkedIn. And then people feel free to connect. As said, I'm very open with my time and generous with my time. So if people want to jump on a call or connect, I'm always more willing to.
Are you active?
I won't charge.
Are you active on any other networks to be tagging you for these episodes? Instagram, Twitter, anything like that?
Yeah, a little bit. It's Neil_Finnie on Instagram. Twitter, I'm not very active on now.
Be sure to check out his social media and website and all that content, but it's social media time for the show, and we're on whichever platform you like to use. We're at What It's Really Like to Be an Entrepreneur on LinkedIn, at Your Favorite Morning Podcast on Instagram and Facebook, and it's Podcast by Lanci on Twitter, so you get updates from both of my shows. Of course, my handles are at Vincent A. Lanci on all social media and YouTube, and my website is vincentalanci.com. If you check out my books, DM me. I want to hear from you. We have Left for Dead, A Story of Redemption, and How to Transform Your Mindset When the Norm is Changed, both on Amazon now. Let me know what you think. If you enjoyed today's episode, please continue listening and rate What It's Really Like to Be an Entrepreneur 5 stars. I work hard to find value delivering stories for you on each episode. As always, I will end the show with a quote that inspired me and know it will for you too. This one is from mega entrepreneur Elon Musk, the entrepreneur from today's Spotlight story that I started the show with. He said, quote, "If you get up in the morning and think the future is going to be better, it is a bright day." Thanks for listening, and I'll see you all on the next episode of What It's Really Like to Be an Entrepreneur.